This silhouette is as recognizable as a classic Coca-Cola bottle, Nike's swoosh, or Apple's, well, Apple. It's an important bit of German car culture. And finally, I got to drive one. S550 Mustang, S550 Mustang. Oh, loving me some Mustang. Today we are not in an American muscle car though. Today, it's German performance for you. GTS stands for Gran Turismo Sport. If you choose to order one of these and you go for the European delivery, or to us Europeans is really just a factory delivery, your Grand Tour or your Gran Turismo definitely is going to partially take place on the Autobahn. All of the GTSs get the all-wheel drive body from the Carrera 4 models. So that means you have a 44mm wider rear end and you have a wider track. The GTS comes as standard with the 20-inch center-lock wheels from the Turbo S, which in the front are 9 inches wide and have 245 tires. In the back though, they are 12 inches wide and have 305 rubber. Now the Miami Blue looks good on video. However, once you see it in person, dude, it's an unbelievable finish. If you don't want to spend the $2.5 grand on the Miami Blue, you can always just go for Racing Yellow, which looks spectacular as well. Usually, if Porsche keeps standard equipment in the factory rather than putting it in your car, they charge you extra money for that. In this particular case, you don't have to pay any extra money whatsoever, and they will keep the rear seats. And here's why that is a value proposition. First of all, you're gonna lose 7 kilograms. Secondly, nobody ever is gonna ask to go for a quick ride in the back of your Porsche 911. The seats are hands down the most spectacular seats I've ever tried. Now, the only adjustment you can make to the seat is that you can slide it back and forward. For me personally, this is just about perfect. I've been sitting in them again for the past 8 hours or so. Not even a pinch in my back or anything like that. But of course, they almost cost $4 grand. So there's that. Peak horsepower is at 6,500 RPM. You can rev the motor to 7,500 RPM, easy peasy. It still keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. And it's rewarding because from 7 to 7.5 grand, the engine note changes for one last time. And it sounds very, very good. That is what you get in sport. So they drop a little bit of fuel in the headers, and that's going to give you these crackles. Now go to Sport Plus. The overrun is just much louder, but you do not get the crackles. This is maintenance throttle, which is when the engine gets sort of muted. Overrun. But once you put some load on the engine, if you were to drive this back to back with the GT3 with the naturally aspirated motor, you could still tell there's a difference in terms of throttle response, but this is so immediate. The throttle response here is awesome. This GTS weighs 1,500 kilograms wet with the driver. Now, the way this GTS is optioned, it's 20 millimeter lower in comparison to a regular Carrera. The cool thing about PDCC actually is that you do have very little body roll, if any at all. And that's because you have active sway bars and you have an active motor mount. Cornering speeds, as in the Boxster, can be quite significant. Yeah, significant is a good word. This has the optional rear axle steering, which means under 50 kph it's going to steer in the opposite direction as the front wheels, which virtually makes the wheelbase a little shorter. And above 50 kph, they're going to steer in the same direction, which is going to give you additional stability because it emulates a longer wheelbase. Now, I have no doubt that it actually works. That being said, I don't feel any odd movements coming from the back of the car. I can tell you that it is very, very stable and very agile, but I have no idea whether this is just how 911s feel or if this is because of the rear axle steering. But the number one thing I've come to learn about Porsche 911s is that even this very modern 911, you can feel that it is a rear engine car. Once you pass the apex, just hammer on it, and the 305 Pirellis in the back, they're just gonna find the traction for you. And it just grips and grips and grips. It's tremendous. It is just tremendous. On dry tarmac, this is never gonna give you unexpected oversteer. I also had the chance to drive this under proper rain conditions. I obviously took it much, much easier, especially because even if you leave ESP in the fully on mode, you still do get some slip. The back end can still kick out. If you accelerate after the apex and you do so in a sensible fashion and you don't have a very high turn-in speed, it's not going to be sketchy at all. Now, I'm led to believe the 997's hydraulic steering is probably the most spectacular steering you can find in any Porsche, in any car really. But I drove over a pebble about yay big and I felt that in the steering. Kid you not, felt that in the steering. When you go hard on the brakes and you have the wheels on two different surfaces where the left wheel or the right wheel has different levels of grip, you're gonna significantly feel that in the steering. Steering rig, oh my God. Mid-corner camber changes are just spectacular in the 911. You can feel the way it makes the front axle shift just a little bit and the way the entire car reacts to that. Breathtaking. And best of all, it does not feel computerized, not at all. The gearbox is just as awesome as it is in the 718. The only way you could make the shifter not better, but even cooler still, is if you were to do the Carrera GT thing and have the shifter all the way up here. That would be so awesome. It used to be that you could option your 911 with 16-inch wheels. Nowadays, you can option your 911 with 16-inch brake discs and 6-piston calipers. The 6-piston calipers actually come as standard on the GTS though. Now, is that really necessary? I have no clue. These are 410 millimeters. If you just have the steel brakes, they're gonna still be 350 millimeters, which is still a significant brake disc, isn't it? It feels like there's just minor pitch, and actually getting the car back up, rolling off the brake pedal, it is so easy. The way you can control the pitch of the car under heavy braking is probably one of my favorite things about the 911. And the ABS setup is so good. I mean, the braking performance, you just have to experience this for yourself. Are there any negatives about the 911 GTS? The cruise control, I just prefer the way you can do it in a Mercedes. This, after I've gotten used to it, is still pretty good. The way the Sport Chrono is just tacked onto the dashboard, maybe they could make that a little bit prettier. I listen to a lot of rap music, a lot of rock music, and that type of music just features a lot of medium to low bass frequencies, and that sometimes makes the door panels rattle and vibrate, and that is just not cool. It's annoying, and I don't think it has anything to do with less insulation. It may be just this particular car. Either way, annoying. But that's about it. It's also 125,000 euros base. You should expect a pretty much perfect car for that, no? And perfect doesn't mean characterless. It just does not. It's a precision machine. I keep saying this, but it is. And I'm looking forward to driving one on a track.